Now, what's it going to cost the global economy to reach net zero by 2050?
Money spent on clean energy must quadruple within the next 2 decades, leaping from $1 trillion a year to $3.5 trillion a year.
Well, that's according to the Energy Transitions Commission. I've been speaking to the chair, Lord Adair Turner.
Well, look, the report says there is enough money, but that investment will only occur with the right, forceful policies. And they are different policies in different parts of the world. In the world outside China, for instance, we are not seeing renewables yet being built at the pace required. And that's not really a shortage of finance, at least in the rich developed world. It's barriers to the rollout of renewables, things like planning and permitting systems, which slow down the pace at which renewables are built. Now, in other parts of the world, we have different challenges. In China, I would say, the biggest challenge is that too much is invested in real estate, with very cement-intensive and steel-intensive construction, including into a lot of real estate, which will probably end up wasted. And China has to complete and go further down a transition in economy away from a construction-led, real estate-led economy, which it often is when it's trying to recover from a slowdown. As for the developing world, that is where there sometimes is an actual shortage of a finance available, and that's where there's a big role for the multilateral development banks as well as national development banks lending out overseas. So very different challenges between, let's say, rich developed world, China, lower income developed world. In each of them, this transition is absolutely possible, but there are different challenges that we've got to overcome in each of those situations.
So when it comes to the finance for this, the report calls for investments to triple in less than 10 years. Is that realistic?
Let's remember that these sums of money, they sound massive. You know, people look and say, oh, God, you know, $3 trillion. The global economy is an economy of over $100 trillion of GDP. The world invests in something or other each year over $25 trillion of GDP. So one's got to just find a way to make sure that of that $25 trillion and growing, rather than $1 trillion a year today, by 2030, $3 trillion a year is being spent on all the things that we need to create the zero carbon economy of the future.
We've seen an energy crisis in the last few months with potentially worse to come. Is it sensible for countries like the UK, for example, to move towards green energy now? Aren't we in a place where we need the security of tried and tested technology?
This energy crisis that we've faced over the last year, yes, it has, because of high prices of gas, produced somewhat of a return to coal to a limited extent in some countries. But on the whole, what I think it will do is accelerate a move towards renewables and low carbon solutions. And I think it needs to do that because that is the only way for us across the whole world to avoid the potentially catastrophic effects of climate change.
But what do you think the world needs in terms of policy and regulation to make this change happen?
What we need coming up to COP28 in Abu Dhabi this coming December, is a reinforcement of the determination of the world to set tighter targets, but it then has to be up for individual countries to drive faster development of renewables, faster phase out of internal combustion engines, faster phase out of coal-powered generation in particular, and a shift of heavy industry, aluminum, steel, cement, chemicals, towards the new zero carbon technologies which we know do exist.